How did you get to New York? Which I think I know the answer to.
In our pre-chat. I was born here. I was born here in 2005. So I've lived in the same apartment my whole life. And it was actually my mother's apartment when she was at school at Juilliard, which is where I am now. And we were just together, and she's in Connecticut now, but I'm still in the city, still at school, and still in New York and loving it every day.
So this is in the genes, but did you tell me the musician story from your childhood? Like, were you always like Miss Savant pianist? What's that story?
I was not always Miss Savant. I come from a long line of female pianists in my family. My mother's a pianist. My grandmother's a pianist. My great-grandmother, whose name is also Dovie, is a pianist. And I'm sure that the list goes on, but we have not tracked that down quite yet. And also just like some aunts, uncles too, that are just involved in music. I mean, our whole family is kind of artistic and musical, but I just love the lineage of the mother pianist and kind of passing down that tradition. And I hope to pass it down to my kids as well. But it's been very liberating to be a part of such a wonderful family and community. Yeah. Was that gift or talent noticeable early on? Do you remember kind of how you got into it in the first place? Yeah, I remember that my mother would always put on this show called Baby Einstein. Sure. And it was the show. I don't have much of a memory of it. I do remember taking one of the CDs out and like scratching it with one of my toys as I was watching another Baby Einstein episode. But they would always play, I think they were cartoons, and play music and classical music to it. And my mother was just a firm believer of only having classical music in the house. And my father was also a musician, or is a musician. And he played guitar, but he was more in the rock scene. And so sometimes he would show me the Beatles, and my mother would be like, no, she has to only listen to like Beethoven and Mozart. It can't be this. And so sometimes he would kind of sneak me over and show me some Beatles. Like my favorite song, I think, is I'm the Walrus. I love that song, and I loved it when I was 3 years old, but I got into it at around 3 years old. My mother, there's some old like VHS tapes of me sort of plinking on the piano, and I actually played this game with my grandmother, who taught my mom, and it was called First Runner Up. And in these beauty pageants, you always have the two last remaining girls, and they're holding hands and they're closing their eyes, and they're the announcers announcing who's going to win. And so then there's the winner and the first runner up holding hands, and they have to act like they don't hate the other person's guts. But so my grandmother and I would always play that, and we would turn around and not face the piano, and my mom would play these piano notes and say like, what note is this, what note is this? And my grandmother was one woman who would not let a child win no matter what. Like, she was great with kids, but she was competitive as hell. And so we would be holding hands really tight, and I would get the note like that, and like it was a C or a D or whatever, and my grandmother would say it maybe like 10 seconds after. And so I think pretty early on they realized that my ear was very in tune with music. And also my mom said that when kids go up to the piano and, they slam on the keys versus when they will kind of take one finger and just go boop, boop, boop. That's a telltale indicator that kids are naturally fit for a piano and that instrument. And so I started when I was around 3. I started with a teacher at a local church nearby, like in the top level of a church, very hot. And I still keep in touch with him today. He was a colleague of my mom's at Juilliard and afterwards. And then my mom took me out of that and also taught me herself. And my grandmother taught me. And then I went to special music school in Manhattan, and I studied with my teacher Nutella until high school, and now I'm with my professor Julian Martin at Juilliard. And so, but for most of my life I've been taught by women, and that's just been the wonderful experience. But yeah, so I started very, very early on. Music's just always been such a huge part of my household, and I'm so glad that it is, because I wouldn't live my life without it. Did you always get the sense that this was what you wanted to do? That not only did you have the talent, but the interest and the drive was there too? I think so. I think that for every musician and every artist, that there are going to be those bumps of what if. I actually just went to a church service yesterday, and the whole pastor's sermon was about the question, what if? And I remember auditioning for a special music school when I was 4 years old, and my mother was taking me to my audition. And it's also right next to Juilliard. So you get off at the 66th Street station and you see Juilliard on your left, and then special music school's right there. And she said, Dovie, you're just going to go in and you're going to win a race. You're going to have this race. You're going to win it. And that's going to be it. And so I went, and I guess I won the race, but she always treated it like a game, and it was fun. And so she made piano fun. And so my entire life, I see piano not as something that some kids view as kind of a burden, like you have to practice all this time, you have to, spend so much time with it. But I just see it as such a healing force and a spiritual force. And so, but when I would go to special music school every day, I would see Juilliard on my left. I would walk up and I'd be like, gosh, I am never getting in there. Like I would see all these successful kids, and the term success is debatable, but I just admired them so much. And my mother would keep in touch with her friends, and I just was like, wow, that just seems like a dream for me. That is far away. Like it's kind of out of reach. But then as I got older, COVID hit, and I really was putting into perspective what I wanted to do with my life, or at least for now, what I wanted to have in my life. And I realized that I can't live my life without music, and I can't live my life without playing. And so I just really dedicated my time to putting everything I had into getting into music school. And that ended up being Juilliard, and I couldn't be happier. But so yeah, I think that piano's always just been such a important force in my life.
You said it's a healing force.
Yes.
And you use the word spiritual. I'd love to hear about what it's like for you, why you use those words. What about being a pianist and the act of practicing and performing makes you use those words?
I think it's hard to convey when I'm not talking to, like, when I'm talking to somebody that is not a musician.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard to convey this, but I like to think of it that when you have that performance where you get out and everything just goes away, and it's just you and your instrument, and there's no audience. Even if there is, but there's no audience. There's kind of no stage. There's no lights. It's just, you feel like you've kind of ascended in a way. And I think that at moments I'm most in touch with my spirituality, whatever that may be, when I'm playing and when I have those performances, or just when I'm practicing. Like there's just some moments where you kind of step back and you're like, how did somebody write this? And how did somebody take the time and know how this would sound, without the modern technology that we have today, hundreds of years ago? I mean, also my teacher, now Julian, he said Bach is religion, and I think that's very true. And sometimes when I play Bach, I just feel the most close to my spirituality, that I'm still trying to figure that out, which is fine. But so I think that sometimes when I'm practicing, I am not in a good headspace, and that's just a reality for everybody.
Yeah.
And I indulge in getting to know my music and my craft and myself better. And so sometimes I'll have those practice sessions where I just play and I'm just trying to push all my real life worries away and just stick to the music, and it works. And I leave the practice room feeling healed. I mean, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently, but I know that there's some kind of power in that. There's some kind of healing in that. And so I think it's all connected. But I think especially in performance, I've had many times, especially performances that are dedications to people, where like I've had to play at funerals, and I feel most connected to that person in that moment, because it's like, this is what is bonding us. I don't have to speak to them. I don't have to look at them. It's just, I know that there's something out there that's connecting us. And part of that is the music.
Is it often for you, when you're performing, an internal feeling of ecstasy or euphoria or many different types of emotions? How would you describe that?
Many different types of emotions. It's usually like I'm in the wings and I'm freaking out and I'm shaking and my stomach's doing a bunch of somersaults and stuff. And I'm kind of miserable backstage. But that doesn't always happen because when I know that I'm prepared, it does not happen. There are times where I've gone up and I'm like, I know I'm not ready for this and I should not be on the stage right now or wherever I am or where I'm performing. My mom always says, when you're not ready, your mind will play tricks on you and you'll get on your stage and you won't know it until you're there. So I always try and over prepare. But when I'm on stage, I think that it's just I'm listening so intently and I'm just trying so hard to convey everything that I've spent hours and hours training and doing, and it kind of just floats away. Like it's just me, and as if like we're having a conversation. I'm having a conversation with my instrument, and when I get up, I think that's when you start to feel, when it's a good performance, you feel the euphoria, you feel the ecstasy, and you take that bow, and then you get the reassurance from your friends that have come out to see you, and just such satisfaction that you've put in so many hours into one thing and you've changed somebody's day, week, month, you don't know, in that evening or in that performance. And I think that also comes from like the healing power of it. Cause I work at school and I go to retirement homes and I go to different mental hospitals. I do stuff and, it's with other musicians and a dancer, a jazz drummer, and an operatic singer. Love them to death. And we go and we talk to these people afterwards and they're like, you have just made my day, or you have just made my week. We never see people like this, or it's been a while since we've seen people like this. And so knowing that I changed just one person's day makes it all worth it.
I would imagine you've talked to your mom about this in relatively great detail, but when you speak to her about what it's like for her to perform, does she have a similar connection and experience to getting up on stage and performing as you do? Because to me, it seems like, just in hearing your explanation there's a great combination of like natural ability plus deep interest in the work itself and just joy of doing the thing. Does that also run in your family?
No, actually. No, it doesn't. My mother knew that she did not want to perform. And she went there, but she always had a problem with shaking. And that's just a problem with some people. And it's not her personality to go out there and perform and be a soloist and have that attitude to be a soloist. And so, whenever I do hear her play, though, it's just amazing. And she just knows, she has such a wealth of knowledge. And so she'll help me practice when I'm home. And I just hear her teach now. And that's her calling. That's really what she's meant to do. And so some people ask her to play and she's like, no, I don't want to. Like, she's just kind of shy in that way. And so she always says that I'm more confident than she ever was. And I agree and disagree with her on some aspects of that. She's like, you didn't even seem nervous. I didn't even know. I was like, Mom, I was freaking out. Like, you don't understand. And like, I'm really hoping that we actually perform together in my senior recital at Juilliard, because you can invite alumni. But I need to start asking her now, because I know that it would take a little bit to convince her. But I know that she's like, I would be honored to do that. But yeah, so I think that there is kind of a difference. But I think also the landscape of the school is much different now. Like, they really care so much about involving all these different disciplines and doing interdisciplinary work, which just wasn't as possible when she went, because she went in the 80s. Because like there wasn't as much social media, there wasn't as much advertising. It was just a different time.
Yeah.
And so because the school has given me that foundation to work and collaborate, I think it has made me more open to perform and happy to perform in as many capacities as I can. But yes, so our approaches are much different.
You talked earlier about how you used to admire the Juilliard students you would see when you were younger. And I don't know anything about how this works, and I would love to learn. How does one try to get into that program? I'm sure you remember that in great detail.
Oh, I remember it
what happened?
Too great of detail, because I look on it back on it fondly, because now I'm there, but just the process was really grueling. Yes, very grueling. So it's kind of not known, but it's encouraged that in music schools that you want to have lessons with different professors so that you get to know their teaching styles across all different conservatories, not just Juilliard. And so you call them trial lessons, and you just go to different professors and you talk to them, you play for them a little bit. And so I ended up getting in touch with my current professor through the dean of my old school, Igal Kesselman. And he said, okay, I'm going to hear you for like 10, 15 minutes. Nothing crazy. And I'll give you a few notes and then you'll be on your way. And that's the custom. That's what it's meant to be. And so I get there and I play one piece for him. This is in my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
And then I play another piece for him. And then I play another thing for him. And then we have like a 2-hour lesson. It was something crazy like that. And then he was like, when can you come back? And I was like, oh my gosh. Like it was, I was so happy. And so I came back a few times over until when I had to audition. You have to do pre-screening tapes. So you, will send in your tapes in December. And then once you get past that, you go to your live audition. And I'm not sure of the numbers, but I think that they eventually had to whittle it down to 10 pianists that got into the main program.
For 1 year.
Yeah,
wow.
For 1 year. I think there's around 150 people in my class across like dance, drama, music, which is small.
Yeah.
But you hear all these numbers and you're just thinking like, I am not gonna get this.
Not looking good.
It's not looking good. But I just kind of tried to work my tail off, and I was getting a lot of encouragement, having a lot of lessons and stuff, and my audition was totally nerve-wracking. Like they keep you for 20 minutes and you have to have an hour plus of your program available so that they can just kind of cold call it.
Yeah.
And people will prep you for what you have to play, but you never know what the judge is going to call at that point. And so it's like all of the piano faculty there, so it's like 9 faculty. And so I went through my whole program, and then I was done, and I thought I did really well. And that was the one time where I was really confident in myself, where I was like, okay, I think I did really well. I texted my mom, I aced it, I did really well. But it's also like, that's your opinion. You don't know how the judges are going to feel. I kind of looked at my now professor, and he kind of gave me a little smirk, and I was like, oh gosh, what does this mean? And so, but I think it was good. And so then they don't tell you this, but after you're done, this is only for piano as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, that you go into a different room and you take a whole music literacy test. So it's like your knowledge on music history, your knowledge on music theory, different terms. I mean, it's not terribly hard if you're at the conservatory level, I guess, like people already kind of know these terms.
Yeah.
And so then you go into another room. So this is the third location. And there was a composition faculty, and there was a piece of music up on the piano. It was like the composition faculty. It was in a classroom in the piano. And he says, okay, go. And he said, now sight read or look at this piece of music. I think it was a Beethoven piece. And he was like, and sight read it for me. I was like, okay. And I think I did all right. And, it was okay. And, I'm not a great reader by any means, but I think I kind of noodled my way through. And then he starts asking me about my pieces. He's like, so this piece, tell me the year that it was composed. What era of composition was this composer in when he wrote the piece? Why was this piece written? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really nerve-wracking, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know that this was going to be part of the audition, because no other schools. My last audition, I'd applied to like 6 other music schools. And then, so I go through that, and then he's like, okay, fine. Chatted on that. And it was a good conversation. And then he points to a clock in the classroom, and he's like, do you see that clock? And I was like, yes. And he said, starting in 10 seconds, he was looking at the second hand. He was like, I want you to improvise for exactly 1 minute, and I want it to be good. And you stop when it reaches that handle. And so I was like, okay. And so then I start, and I kind of, the other day, or the days leading up to my audition, in order to kind of cleanse my palate, I would sight read like folk tunes and American spirituals, which come from my family in the South and my grandmother. And I was just trying not to be so involved in all of my audition repertoire. And so I did more of an American spiritual improvisation. And then the minute is up. And he's like, that is definitely one of the best improvisations I've heard. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And he said, it's just people don't usually take that angle or approach the improvisation in that way in doing like the spiritual, maybe it would be in the style of Chopin or Liszt or something, which makes sense. But I wanted to kind of address my roots and address where I came from. And that's just kind of what came to mind. It was just so quick. Everything was so quick and they don't prepare you for it. And so then we just kind of started talking about my family. We started talking about my audition and we chatted for a really long time. And I was the last person of the day. And so he said, I kind of joked that I was like the personality hire. Like we just kind of got along. And, I have no idea what went into the factors of getting me in. But, so that was kind of the process, but it was so intense. I mean, I can't even express to you how intense it is. And I'm probably going to do it for my master's. So I'm going to have to go through the whole process again, which now I know, now I'm prepared for it. I think I was kind of driving blind because I didn't know anything about it, but it was so worth it. I mean, I can't even tell you how worth it was because now I'm at the best place ever. So
yeah, I don't know that this really needs this. I think people know the answer to this, but what is it about that place that is so unique, or I guess personally for you, why did you want to go there so badly?
I think my mother always saw it in me because she went there and she said, you're going to go there. And she just always believed in me. And I kind of hate the phrase like believing in you, but I think it's true that she really saw that I could do it, just because it takes, you can have your village of people that are going to support you, but it kind of takes you to want to do that. And so she always saw that want from my side. And also it's just interesting being an American pianist there because I haven't met too many Americans. Really? Like a lot are international. And I've also gained such a wealth of knowledge from them, just from how they approach music. So and also I think hardly any of the pianists in my school had ever gone there. And so there's just a lot of different things that made me want to go there, and also just so close to home. Yeah. Which was a huge deciding factor for me. And, it's just been a really unique place. I don't know. I think it's just that you have the motivation from everybody around you to do so well. And that really helps me because sometimes when you're alone, like during summer breaks or during school breaks, it's hard to gain that motivation to continue doing what you're doing. But when you have friends that are supporting you and supporting themselves, that's going to make all the difference and make you really enjoy where you are. And I think that has really helped me. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's very intense and very stressful sometimes, but that comes with any school. And if you're willing, you're auditioning and going there already shows you that you're able to take that on and you're able to withstand whatever the school is throwing at you. And you make the opportunities for yourself. The school's just kind of there to support you all through it. And your teachers are there to support you. And I remember the chair of the piano department said, like, you can do this because you want to be here and you have people that are here to help you. And if you don't take advantage of those opportunities, it's kind of on you. And so I'm trying as hard as I can to do that. There's just so much at my school that it's hard to even begin to go to all these different opportunities and go to these different offices and people that all want to help you so badly to get you through some of the hardest or greatest or saddest or whatever years of your life. For me, it's been the greatest years of my life, so I'm very grateful.
You said earlier I think you said 10 pianists a year, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
Do you know how many applications there are and what percentage of the people who are admitted are Americans?
Oh, well, I know that almost, I don't know if they're not all from mainland China, but they're all Chinese. So
The other students, the other
in
pianists.
my grade are all Chinese. We have a Korean transfer student that came in this year.
So you're the only American pianist?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like, some people had moved here, but they'd been from other parts of the world. And so that's been, but I guess like born and raised and just kind of pretty much white bread. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but yes. So it was just, that was kind of an interesting thing because you had a lot of kids who I love very dearly that just didn't speak the language and didn't know the customs of America. And so teaching them that and talking with them, and we just have this mutual respect for each other because we both worked so hard to get where we are and we respect our playing. And but it's definitely like a trip sometimes because there have been many instances where I just am not connected with them on certain cultural levels. And we both respect that. And I see them in class and I love them and talk to them, and just as you would talk to anybody else. But it's just like our friend groups would be more like, you know, I would hang out with more Americans, they would hang out with more Chinese people, and that's just recognized and accepted. But it was kind of difficult at first to get used to that because the culture surrounding music in our respective homes is so different. And like I said earlier, I always viewed piano as this like fun, loving, healing thing. And I think for not necessarily the people that are in my class, but I know that people that come from China and come from like Asian countries, that sometimes that's not always the case. And I mean, that's also just kind of a stigma. I think it's getting better. And I think that the school really supports you so that that stigma is broken. And, but it's, I mean, it's still there, but I think that once you get to America and you get to see like our customs and that we're actually just like really loving towards our instruments, and we've all learned so much from each other that's been it's been a very mutually beneficial thing, because I've learned so much about the Chinese culture and the Korean culture, and other Asian cultures and other world cultures from being at the school that sometimes I wouldn't know. Like,
what have you learned that resonates or that you think is fascinating or just has stuck with you? I think it's
fascinating that often when we have to do theory assignments, composition assignments, that I've seen so many of my friends compose things based off of melodies and things heard from their homes. And so places like in China or Korea or Mongolia or and you can hear that distinct style of music. And I wasn't really exposed to that before. And I'm so glad that I am now, because I'm constantly trying to seek out new music and new cultures and how cultures define what music is. Because it varies so much. And so I think that it's important when you get to an institution like that to view it from a place of welcoming and growth, and rather than kind of dismissing it because it's not your own. And I think that they do a very good job of accepting kids that have those foundational principles, because I think that it's really easy to get caught up in the familiar. And I mean, I could have very well brought in a composition that was similar to my Southern roots and not have accepted the kids that brought in stuff from their roots all around the world. And I mean, sure, I mean, it would have made me love my composition more, but I wouldn't have learned anything from that. And I think that that's just step one of not being a good musician and a good artist.
I would imagine you probably talk to your professors about this and think about this a lot, and you're obviously so early on in your music journey. Where do you see this going for you? Like, what is the calling potentially beyond your education that feels right at this point?
At this point, I think that I know that piano is not going to be my be all and end all. I want to include music in other aspects of my life, but I'm hoping to exercise more of my artistic outlets. And, you know, I love to draw. I love to cook. I love to garden. I love so much about this earth and so much about what it gives to us. And so just kind of anything to do with creativity. So whether that be music or whether it be art or whether it be cooking or whether it be gardening, I want to put all my eggs in those baskets rather than just putting them all in the piano basket, because the reality is that it's hard to make a career as a musician. And so you have to be ready to have other career paths. And so I'm trying to like create content on Instagram or I don't know what else eventually that is stuff that I like to do while also including the music and also including the cooking and the art. And so like this past summer, I started this cooking series called Choppin' and Choppin', which has been super fun. I mean, technically it's Chopin and Choppin', but people always joke about like you played Chopin. I'm like, yeah. And it's just been something that I enjoy so much because I love photography and I love cinematography, even though that this isn't necessarily cinematic, but I just love taking videos of things, and so I realized that I can just kind of put those things together. And so I love to cook, and I cook in my grandmother's kitchen, and I have music in the background that's always Chopin music, it's always piano music, and it's exposing people to classical music in a really approachable way, I think, because it kind of matches whatever dish I'm making, and sometimes I'm playing, sometimes I'm not, and so I think that possibly content creation and or at least just getting into a different lifestyle, because I have my school life, which is playing with people, it's playing by myself, it's playing with dancers, it's playing with actors, it's doing all things music, and I want to put that into other things that aren't necessarily with other people. It's like with myself, but doing different things. So like I can have playing over me drawing or playing over me cooking, things like that, because I'm finding that that's where my happiness is starting to come in. Like I'm realizing how happy I am cooking and drawing and playing. And so if I can put all of that together, that just makes me really excited for what's next. Also, I'm still very much focusing on my music. Like that's still such a huge part of my life, because I mean, it has to be if I want to put everything together. But I just know that my personality is more playing with other people and being with people and collaborating with people rather than being alone and having a solo career, which I'm perfectly fine with. And I've known that for a while. But I'm just excited for what this next chapter holds.
I wonder if you talk to your classmates and people in your world about, in the technological world we live in the AI world we're moving into, what the role of the individual musician in front of a live audience will be. I don't think anyone really knows.
I don't think we know yet, but I think what we do know is that the more AI takes over, the more we have to strive for the real and for the tactile and the what is in front of us that is present. Like presence is what I think we have to rely on the most. I'm not too worried about AI taking over music and classical music. I mean, maybe in some aspects, like for pop, taking over lyrics or whatever, because I mean, that's a possibility, but people will be able to recognize the difference between something that is human and something that is made by a robot. And hopefully that stays constant. But I think that in my profession that's not a huge concern about AI taking it over. But I think that people will realize that there are other aspects where AI is taking it over. And so they're going to be trying to find other walks of life that are more intimate, and you find that you're engaged in person rather than being engaged by something that's not real.
Do you find that your classmates, I think it's really interesting that you said, as you look into your future, that you're very open to wherever this goes, incorporating being creative with leveraging your music education and talent with something else to grow in some capacity. Do you find that your classmates also, I would imagine if we had this conversation 30 years ago, you'd be like, I want to be in the New York Philharmonica, or I want to,
Yes.
there was a traditional route forward to be a classical musician. And I would guess most people in a Juilliard class would say the same thing.
Right.
Do you notice that most people you're around at Juilliard are reluctant or not quite as interested in going the traditional route and are more open to kind of like moving like water through life, depending on where technology goes and where the opportunities are?
That's a great question, because I think it really varies on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Because I think that there are a large number of kids that want to take that traditional route.
Yeah.
Or, for example, kids that come from China and then have school here and then go back to China to make careers because they know that it might not necessarily be easier, but it's just like they know the system better. I think that a lot of my friends, my close friends, they want to always be, it's sort of like my outlook. Like they always want to be in music, but they're open to what different types of music they can create, what different ensembles they can be in. I think that some of my friends are really into like the visual art, and like one of my best friends, Pearl, she's into visual art, she's into clothing, she's into sewing, she's into all these things, but she's also a fantastic violist. And so I know that she's going to always have that part of her life, but I know that she's also kind of moving like, in a way, like moving like water, that she's open to whatever the world is going to throw at her. I think that's partially why we get along so well, is because we both have this similar outlook on life. But I think in the classical world, there's more of this predeterminacy of you know, where you're supposed to go, especially in orchestral instruments. Like, you know, you play this, you audition, you get a job at a major orchestra. And some kids really want to do that, and some kids are like, I don't want to do that because it's going to suck all the fun out of being a musician. But the kids that want to do that, they know that they can, and that they're it's just a matter of what orchestra they end up at, but they know that they're going to be happy and employed. And I think that there's also, like I said, there's just the kids that want to be on that traditional path, and that's okay. But I think also it depends. Like, for example, I have a lot of friends in the jazz department as well, and a lot of their culture is like, okay, what's the next gig? Like, what am I doing next? Yeah. And so they have that similar outlook on what's flowing. Exactly. And so I think that's also why I gravitated a lot towards them, is because I really respect their outlook on music, because it goes into other aspects of their life. And I think that their outlook on life is much more positive. And
creative too.
And so it allows me to also put creativity into more aspects of my life. And so it's just this, we are mutually benefiting from one another, because they also respect what I'm doing, and they're amazed by what I'm doing just as much as I'm amazed at what they're doing. Like, every time I see my friends, either in a small ensemble or big band, I see them and I'm like, oh my goodness, how did you just do that? And they're like, yeah, there's nothing on the music stand either. Like, it's like all bar lines and nothing is actually written. Whereas for us, it's like everything is written out, and it's hard to get out of that. And so I respect them so much.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I know we're a little short on time, so I'm going to close with this question to you. And we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but I'd love to hear at this point in your life how you think about the word success. I love to ask guests about this in terms of, I guess, related to their future, but mostly their life. Like, how do you think about that word at this phase of where you are, and how it applies to you and how it applies to your future?
I think success for me is when I feel the happiest and when I feel the best about myself is usually when I'm making others happy and having an impact on their life. And so what I think success is when I'm able to change somebody else's life in whatever capacity. And so it has nothing to do with how much money I make. It has nothing to do with anything monetary. It has to do with the person-to-person connection. I'm constantly trying to connect with different people, and like just on a emotional sense. And when I can make somebody else happy in the same way that I'm happy and make their day a little bit better. That's success to me. And so however I'm able to achieve that, whether it be through music or just collaboration or talking or anything, I'm always trying to find that. And I think that recently I've been feeling very rich. I've just been placed in front of so many people that have made my life so good. And I count my blessings every day, but I'm so blessed to be in those people's lives and change them in whatever way that I can. So I think that's the best way that I can put success right now.
Love it. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.